Welcome everyone to the 161st edition of the Nuthouse podcast brought to you by boxsalam.com. I am your host Andy Patterson. And today I've got Matty D, Steve Wellens, Donny Baseball, Adam Smith's poking around in the background somewhere, and I think Dave the Hater's run a wee bit late. Now, last night could have been very difficult viewing if it wasn't for Freddie Roach hadn't stopped Jean Pascal when he stool against Sergei Kovalev just after the 8th round. Now, probably the best way to describe it simply is Sergei Kovalev actually tortured Jean Pascal last night. It was like a cat with a mouse as he played with it. He gave it hope. He allowed it to escape very briefly, and just for the torture to start again. In this instance, Pascal didn't get eaten alive. He just got beat up and got beaten down. The jab was a very potent weapon for Kovalev last night, and especially those body shots as well. He even managed to get some body shots off when he was in that kind of headlock clinch and that he would get Pascal on. And he did try to get so much venom in those circumstances as possible into his punches. Now, it did go pretty much as expected, as we mentioned last week, and even though Pascal took it to, I think it was about the third round actually, until he finally got something off, but he could never put a dent in Kovalev. He just stalked him, punched him, punished him, pulled him, and gave him just a little bit of breathing room. I think he just basically carried him. I did say it during the fight, he carried him for a fair bit, just wanted to torture him, and that's exactly what he did. Now, onto the post-fight, shall we say, of Frodonis, Chickenson. Well, I don't know where we're going to start with the two extras that he had from fucking Moulin Rouge, but Chickenson, he was tragic last night, unless it was all a set-up, but you're the champ. Well, sadly, the lineage allows you to say that, but we all know who the real man is, and that real man just can't be bothered or be fucked with the games that people are playing. They line up fighters for Kovalev, he breaks them up, beats them down. Chickenson, on the other hand, is a fraud. You could apportion blame to certain sides of the factions and that as well, but it all started because Frodonis fucking ran across the street. Now, if I can just manage to put this across, I'm just going to try and play last night's post-fight interview. Just listen to this, guys.
They keep lining up opponents for you, and you keep knocking them out. Between now and Andre Ward, is there anyone you're interested in getting in the ring with?
Sure, I wanna unify all four titles. I would like to fight Adonis Chickenson.
Adonis Chickenson, who is also here ringside.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Hey! That's me, this is the biggest comeback! This is me! I'm the champ! I'm the real champ! Oh yeah!
He's a champ, apparently. What do you think of that, Matty?
I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, you got to say though that's probably the worst thing that's happened to Haitians since AIDS. Kovalev just you like that one? Yeah. Kovalev just toyed with him. It was funny. Like every time the ref was stepping in there to say it was enough, Kovalev was just back up. And he'd give Pascal a few more, just a few seconds to breathe, and then he'd get right back on him again. And he was just toying with him the whole fight. I mean, he really could have ended that at any point that he wanted, but he was in there with the purpose of hurting him and punishing him and making sure that it was prolonged. And the only person that could have stopped it really was Roach, and letting it go an extra round was kind of pointless. But it was good to see Sergey give that kind of beatdown. It was good to see Adonis Stevenson get in the ring with him. Maybe he'll do it with gloves on eventually. We can be optimistic, right? But it's I tell you what, Kovalev is something incredible. His footwork, the way that he maintains distance, he's a very, very intelligent ass kicker. I don't think I can put it any different way. Him and Golovkin, the parallel they have, I both like the way that they control distance, use their feet. But Kovalev's jab is vicious, man. He dropped Pascal in the first round with a jab. It wasn't
There's
called.
no tangle in the feet there.
Dude, that jab is a fucking hammer, man. And I'll tell you what, if you're talking really the fight that matters, I mean, because Stevenson's going to be a fucking wank. He's going to be a wank. But when it comes to Ward, I mean, that's going to be the battle of who can establish distance and their jab. I mean, that's what that entire fight's going to come down to, and I can't make my mind up on it. I'm glad it's months, possibly a year away, because I have no clue who will win that fight.
Tell you one thing, we're seeing more of Andre Ward just now, and hearing more about Andre Ward than we're hearing from Kurt Ward. Kurt Ward, actually, so Steve, you still there, mate? You had to pop away.
No, I'm still here.
Pascal, man. I mean, we did say last week he was nails. You know, guy. I don't know what it was, but I think maybe Kellerman called it right. The stuff that went on before the fight, a couple of days before it, with the bananas and the racial stuff and all that sort of stuff. Maybe Pascal had to attach himself to some sort of cause to get himself up for it because he knew he was walking into there last night, and he really just didn't have any much of an answer, did he?
No, he didn't have any answer, although he did land 2 solid left hooks in the third and a great right hand in the fourth, so I think we need a rubber match to sort this all out. So, but I mean, Pascal, he just took a sickening beating. He offered very little, and yeah, he was very sporadic. I know that Freddie Roach said beforehand that he wanted him to be a bit more thoughtful and box a little bit more, but I think that sort of explosive bursts of wildness was maybe what Pascal kept things interesting for him. Even Kovalev took a step back at times, but he wasn't throwing enough, Pascal, at all. He wasn't doing enough. I didn't expect him to do anything beforehand. I was surprised it went on as long as it did, but it was just simply the fact that Kovalev was just carrying him. He could have finished him off earlier, but Pascal, he was just taking a sickening beating, and he just reminded me. He looked a bit like Spencer Fearon in there, the way he's starting to feel a bit sorry for himself towards the end, and it was staggering. He looked shot. I mean, what could he do? He was just taking the jab all night, and I love a good jab. Matty was right. It was just a supremely accurate, beautiful jab, and every time he threw it, nearly every time, it was just whacking Pascal in the face. Pascal just couldn't move. His upper body movement, he looked too tight. He looked a bit like Berto around the shoulders. His footwork was non-existent. He couldn't move the head. He just looked like a shot fighter. He needs to just retire. And as for Kovalev, I mean, he's an unsavoury individual. But I did laugh when he gave Stevenson pretty short shrift there, flipping him off and just walking away to celebrate with the fans while Stevenson sort of got on with this faux ring invasion. But all in all, yeah, I suppose there's all the political shenanigans going on outside of the ring. Kovalev Stevenson, is it ever going to happen? Probably not. Kovalev was mandated, of course, to fight at one point, but for whatever reason with Kathy Duvin, that it didn't happen. So Kovalev also and his team have to take some part of the blame for things not coming off. I think it's fair to say. And Stevenson's contractual obligations with Showtime, I'm not sure how strong they are, but yeah, we just want to see the best fights, and I think if he fights Ward, it'll be very interesting. If he can maintain the distance, I think he has a good chance, but he's not very good being backed up, and I wonder how he would cope with Ward on the inside. It'd be very interesting to see, because he does mark up around the face, and Ward will be smashing that head in left, right and centre. But they say it's as good as done for November. Hopefully Kovalev will destroy someone in the interim, but Pascal 3, no thank you.
Paul, give me your take on Kovalev last night. As I say, cat and mouse, simply was. But moving on from that, actually, Pascal, should he retire, and should maybe the ref have had maybe a closer look at him, or was it just kind of like the right call just to leave it to the corner?
I don't think Pascal should retire. I just think that Pascal shouldn't fight guys like Kovalev. I mean, usually when we get a rematch signed, it's because there's either been some level of competitiveness, or there's been, a close decision, or there's been disputes on either side about why we need to see the fight again. The first fight I didn't think was really up for much dispute. I think as much as Pascal won a few rounds early on, he got soundly beaten in that fight, and last night was even worse. I mean, Kovalev looked very good. He looked impressive. I think that Pascal, his style was sort of almost made for him, really. And in terms of the ref stopping the fight, it was very difficult, because as much as Pascal was hurt, he was never in a position where he was taking not so much a sustained amount of punches, but a point where he looked seriously in trouble and unable to defend himself. And that's when we talked about Kovalev's sort of nastiness in him. I think Kovalev could have got him out of there earlier. I just think that that wasn't his fight. He was looking to get some rounds in and put a real hammer on him, and that kind of nastiness we don't really see all that much. And I think it's certainly a good thing. This is boxing. End of the day, we want to see people be aggressive, and he was looking to go out there and really put a job on Pascal. I think that Pascal, there are fights for him. I think he has got a future, but Kovalev, we're now talking as being, arguably top 3, top 4 in the world. Anyway, so it's no disgrace to lose to him. I just don't think it was a fight that needed to happen, and I'm not quite sure what Pascal and Roach thought was going to happen. I don't see anything they did particularly differently. I think obviously they were trying to box and move, but Kovalev's so good at closing down the distance, and his footwork's so impressive. I didn't see what out of the first fight they thought they could change for the second fight, and clearly they didn't change anything.
Donnie, were you impressed with the bodywork of Kovalev last night? I mean, the jab especially. I mean, he was pumping it out there all night long. As I say, I really did think at one point, rather than just go for the knockout, he was, make Pascal quit. I mean, we all know he's got the dog in him, but making him quit would have been, something special.
Well, I think that's what he was trying to do, wasn't it? I mean, at the end of the fight, he said, "I try make fight longer. I try make him more pain." It's like,
I must break you.
Yeah, exactly. It sounded like Rocky IV, right? It's a perfect sort of little like YouTube clip that you could put out there for casuals, like in the build up to say Kovalev Stevenson or Kovalev Ward for a pay-per-view fight, because that's something that sort of is very much of the cultural vernacular, is like the Rocky IV movie. But yeah, no, I mean he is a nasty dude, and I knew that was going to be the case too when in the build up to the fight, when Kovalev was visibly angry in that press conference, and especially when he baited his trainer John David Jackson into it, and basically he didn't use these words specifically, but Pascal was essentially calling John David Jackson a kind of an Uncle Tom, saying, "Why don't you stand up for black people? You're black, blah, blah, blah." And, how could you work with Kovalev? And, I knew, Kovalev was like, "Okay, all right, buddy." Since I'll see you Saturday night. And, he definitely brutalized him. And, I mean, it was clear, too. I mean, he had him in the corner a couple of times. Kovalev would move in and close the fight down, right? I mean, but instead of moving in when he was in the corner, he would step back and let him get out and then put it on him again. I mean, he definitely sought to make it brutal. That wasn't just he wasn't just saying that. I mean, that was clearly what he was doing, and it was pretty obvious, I thought, throughout the fight. Guy that looks to be in the peak of his prime right now. I don't think anybody can stop him. I'm not even sure Ward can stop him. And I think I'll be a little bit more interested in the Ward fight when we see Ward back in more regular action with some sort of gatekeeper types at 175.
See, the thing with Kovalev, as you mentioned about the press conference, that you can see he's visibly got the fucking Master of Darkness and terror going through him, just stuff like that, but he seems to remain calm. For instance, when you had Stevenson walk into the ring there last night, he just like that, fuck you, walked away. He just cannot be bothered about it. Just get in the ring. That's all he wants. Just sign the papers, get in the ring and fucking fight me. Over the course of last year, if you want one fighter who would just fight anybody on the planet, it would be fucking Sergey Kovalev. But yeah. Matt, on the topic of Ward, now I'm on record. I'm actually on the hook here now by saying that Ward will retire undefeated. I never heard Ward speak last night, but is there any mention of him fighting before this Kovalev fight? What date are they talking about? November time?
He's supposed to fight in March against that Cuban
Sullivan
cat.
Barrera.
Sullivan Barrera.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a damn decent fighter. That's a good fight. That's a good fight. So
if he gets through that, which I would imagine he will,
he should, but it's a fair test. I wouldn't. It's one of those fights where if someone said something cross against Ward taking an easy task or anything like that, I'd be forced to call him out on that. I think underrating Barrera is kind of absurd. He's a decent fighter.
I'm just thinking more along the lines if he's successful and then he gets a Kovalev fight. Do
you guys think Kovalev is like a legitimate sociopath? I've been processing this.
The guy's been sent by Skynet. He's no human, man. I mean, you don't want to hark back to it, but anybody who can actually walk through some of the things, what he's done and stuff in the ring, and he just wants to basically damage you. You say the wrong thing. I mean, even the crowd last night when he came in, the boos were very kind of, they were quite low, so you don't want to fuck off this guy, because this guy might just kind of jump into the crowd and tear it up. Pascal he went too far, and Kovalev, as you saw, he just tortured him. But I'm just thinking about this Ward fight. De facto pound for pound number one this fight. I don't know. As I say, I've got Ward. I'm sticking with Ward just now, but as time goes by, I need to see something from Ward, because this Kovalev, he's just going to keep coming forward, and unless Ward's going to belly go him, he's going to jab him, move, hold, but I don't even think he's got the strength up close to hold him. I think Kovalev rehydrated to 186 last night, 185, 186, so...
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, because, Ward was always a big super middleweight, and he's incredibly physically strong. I know he's not a big puncher, but he's strong in terms of, using his body weight and leverage and stuff in the clinch and everything like that, and he can muscle you around. And I mean, the question is, yeah,
That's going to be his goal. He's got to keep his head in Kovalev's chest if he's going to win that fight. He can't give Kovalev distance to land punches.
Well,
Ward
right.
can
But what I'm saying is that I
in,
mean,
but-
can he use those techniques as effectively as he did at super middleweight at 175?
No, I think what you see with Ward is it's going to be jab and move. You know, pretty much what he done with Froch. The only thing is with Froch when he stepped forward, he was kind of wide open. Kovalev isn't. Kovalev kind of punches within the box. You know, he hasn't got wide punches and stuff. So I think Ward would find it difficult to try and land something clean on him. So he's got to box, move, and keep it going for 12 rounds. I just don't see how he's going to knock him out. No way. And even though I'm also saying that there's something hiding about Kovalev, maybe about the body, and I still don't think Ward can exploit it enough to stop him. He's probably even trouble him actually. Maybe he's cut him. He's been prone to cuts and that, but I just don't see it.
I don't think
Pascal
Ward.
worked
I don't
some
think.
hooks on Kovalev.
I don't think Ward would stop Kovalev. I just think that Ward has fully capable of outboxing him. I was a big on Andre Ward, and I think the last few years of his career has obviously been a complete waste. But it doesn't take away the fact that he's basically Floyd Mayweather with size and more power. He can box and move brilliantly. He doesn't waste a shot. His punch stats are phenomenal, but it's not that he doesn't waste things. The shots he uses to create distance. And as much as Carl Froch is not exactly Sergei Kovalev in terms of the size, and also Kovalev's actually quite underrated boxing ability. A lot of people think of him as just being some sort of menacing puncher, but his fundamental skills are very, very good, and his boxing ability is very underrated. But I just think that Ward is a supreme boxer, and most of the time in these situations you go with boxer over puncher. I think that Ward is capable of beating anyone at super middle or light heavy, but I think a warm-up fight for him in March, and then I don't understand the long wait again. They're saying the fight's signed for November. I mean, that's over 10 months away. I don't really get it.
It's not signed.
Well, they're saying that's the preferred date, but I don't understand why. If Ward's fighting in March, which is not long away, potentially end of March, I don't know why we're not seeing this summer or September. I don't understand why. Because think of how many things can happen between now and November. It's just a bit of a strange one for me.
Well, I'm thinking though. I mean, don't forget they said that they kind of alluded to this a little bit on HBO last night, but the truth of the matter is that about a couple of weeks ago, Kovalev Stevenson was actually pretty close, and I'm thinking that they were thinking that if that fight went off, they couldn't necessarily guarantee Ward a shot at Kovalev and do that deal. In the unlikely event that Stevenson knocks out Kovalev. I mean, it could happen. If the fight happened, it could throw off their plans, but. As a matter of fact, they did have the outline for a deal about 2 weeks ago. It was supposed to be on HBO pay-per-view, and it was all set, and they took it to Heyman and Stevenson, and the only request, although it was kind of a deal killer that they had, was that it would be a joint pay-per-view between HBO and Showtime. But for a fight of that size, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because
there's not enough pie to go around.
Exactly.
It's not like Mayweather Pacquiao.
It's a difficult one, but if I'm Kovalev, though, that's the fight that I really do what I can to pursue because I think that he does a job on Stevenson, whereas I think the Andre Ward fight is just so much more difficult for him. I mean, the Stevenson fight is bigger financially, so that's got to be sort of Kathy Duva's sort of you'd think that would be her priority, but the amount these guys we've been talking about them fighting each other for 2 years. And it doesn't seem, even though they talked about potential deals, the idea of it being a joint network pay-per-view is just a total non-starter. And you can't imagine that Heyman and Showtime will be willing to send Adonis service back to HBO. But we'll see.
I mean, the thing is, though, is that, so Stevenson has no Showtime contract, so that doesn't really throw anything off. And, I mean, it is going to be on HBO pay-per-view, so I think that they should take that because it's a 50-50 split anyways. I mean, and Heyman's going to get his share out of his fighter's share, and Duva's going to get her share out of her fighter's share. HBO's going to get their money. I mean, I guess Showtime wants a piece of the pie, but they're not really involved in it. They haven't even aired a Stevenson fight since 2014, so it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense for them to be involved. And I mean, what I would say is that I think if it is going to happen, though, the reason why I think it could happen is because. It'd be pay-per-view in America, it'd be pay-per-view in Canada. Stevenson's 39 years old. He doesn't really have that many paydays left. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to sit around and milk the title for a little while longer, because even milking it probably
Hasn't even
wouldn't.
got a title any longer. Maybe
Well,
the lineage. That's about it.
He's got the BC.
Ah, fuck them.
Yeah, but he's still getting 7 figures, isn't he, for his fights? And I think because as long as the Heyman, yeah, as long as, I mean, obviously a Kovalev would be it just makes total. So there's nothing about it that doesn't make sense. Both men are comfortable at the weight. Both men are champions. It just, from the outside, if you were trying to explain why to a non-hardcore boxing fan why this fight hasn't happened, you'd find yourself in riddles. It's preposterous. One side has got to give in, and I think that, I don't know whether HBO will be willing to let Kovalev fight off the channel, but I just think that it may take Kathy Duva and Kovalev to be the one to move for that one fight. They've both got deals.
They have to get HBO, though, to let them do that. But what I don't understand is, first of all, like, we wouldn't be in this situation if Stevenson didn't duck it back in 2013. Okay, fine. But here we are. You know, it's like the fight could have gone to purse bids, and then HBO could have said, all right, we'll back it as a pay-per-view, and we'll put up our money, and let's see if Heyman outbids us. And if Heyman did outbid them, then he would have to pay both fighters purses, and it would be, it still would have been 50-50 because the WBC was going to mandate that. So he would have had to pay both fighters purses. Kovalev probably wins, and then, he comes back to HBO still under contract with all the titles, huge exposure. He just got a huge payday. I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't let him off for that one fight, because then, now when they're trying to build the Kovalev versus Ward fight, now it's for the undisputed championship, the lineal championship, and and Kovalev is a much bigger star, making the Kovalev-Ward fight worth that much more money. I think that it was a bad business move of HBO not to just take part in the bidding process and see what happened. And that was a mistake on their part, and I think that they're insisting that it has to be on HBO, I think is bad from a business perspective. And moreover, the other thing is if this fight does come off, right? Remember that Stevenson would have gotten paid $1 million for this fight in 2013, whereas now it's going to be a pay-per-view in America and Canada, and both guys are probably going to net about $5 million each. So you can say what you want to about Stevenson, but it looks like by not taking that fight initially, and if it does come off, it looks like everybody really came out the better for it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they need to cash Stevenson out soon. You got to think about this too. He is an older fighter who's been showing some vulnerabilities. In fact, I think if I had a few $100 to put on a fight that I think will happen this year on an underdog, I think I'd put it on Fonfara beating Stevenson should they rematch, which I think could definitely happen. Should they not set up Kovalev? But they need to make some money off of Stevenson while they can. I was just seeing the other day that Heyman's fund is now less than $100 million. They essentially dumped about $400 million last year into the product. They got to start making some cash on this shit, or it's gonna go all up.
A lot of that could be been all the time buys. I mean, you pay.
But
for
it's and it's also investment. It's all a matter of what he does with the talent now that he has had a chance to build it on some lower level. You can certainly start turning it over into a profitable product now with you got a few good fighters, and I think they're trying to do that with the Porter Thurman card. But he's got a 38-year-old fighter that he's trying to get. Keep making money off of. The simple fact of the matter is Stevenson is a little smoke and mirrors-ish. He beat a battered Chad Dawson to take his title. They need to get him cashed out and make some fucking money off of all the shit they've dumped into him so far.
Just before we move on to the undercards and other fights across the globe, just get Dave the Hater and Adam's thoughts on Kovalev last night. Very briefly, guys.
Yeah, very clinical, savage beatdown as predicted and as we saw the first time. I really noticed the public reaction, particularly this time, was finally taking note of how not only skilled this guy is, but how sadistic and how savage of a person he is. I think it's turning some people against him. It's turning some people towards him. I mean, I've seen drastic differences in the reactions of people tweeting and reacting in various ways to Kovalev's personality. It's really coming across now. admitted it blatantly last night that he's here to inflict pain on
Yes.
people he doesn't like. And I mean, it's a
You know
hurt
what
business.
it reminds me a bit of Duran back in the day with Esteban de Jesus and Wilfred Benitez. He fucking hated Puerto Rican fighters. Hated them.
It's,
Seen
I
his
mean,
face.
Is that where you get it, Andy?
See, as he sends guys to the morgue and that, if he's not dead, it doesn't fucking count and all that sort of shit. That's the kind of things that Duran used to come out with, man. People loved him for it.
it's the hurting business, you know. And if you're in a position to hurt somebody else, you can do what you want. I mean, you know, unless someone can beat you, which there aren't really many candidates out there to do it except for Andre Ward, and that sets up a tremendous matchup between Andre Ward and Kovalev, which is too close to call at this point, with Ward being so inactive. But I mean, if we can get that this year, it would almost make up for an entire year of shit.
Now, let's see if we can get Gordon Ramsay's brief comments on this fight. You're on mute, mate.
We didn't really learn anything, did we? To be honest, Kovalev's a dangerous man. Like, I love the personality that's coming out. He's saying that he wants to hurt people. Saw a bit of a kick-off at the press conference, but no, we didn't really learn anything. And I was thinking about not even coming on at all tonight. I mean, we've had a pointless rematch pretty much. They both got paid and kept busy. It's terrible at the minute, to be honest. But I mean, the question I was going to say to you guys, if you had to pick one for this year, Kovalev Stevenson or Kovalev Ward, which fight would you prefer to see?
Kovalev Ward.
Yeah, Ward. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Ward.
Yeah. You know, Stevenson, as you said, he's 39-year-old. Okay, he's got the big backing or whatever, but he's 39-year-old. You've got fucking Kovalev and Ward, two guys you would probably relatively are in their primes. No, Kovalev is, you know, you could probably say Ward is. He hasn't taken many beatings. He's been in the ring a fair bit and some injuries and that, but you've got to say he's close to his prime. That's what you want. That's all you can ask for. The two best guys, prime for prime, fighting off. Okay, that's all we want, and that's what's got to fucking happen. Same with Golovkin and Canelo. Prime for prime, make it fucking happen. Then that's more dragging this bullshit out.
Yeah, but Golovkin Canelo's for the lineage, though. You know, I mean, I don't know. There is still something mystical about the lineal title.
The 155-pound title?
Yeah, exactly. 157-pound title.
Fuck. It is. I can't tell you. Let's. Can we get a little Kodo hated just for a second? Still, fuck him for picking on a cripple and picking up that fucking fake belt and making himself look better. Fuck him.
Sergey Ho got fucking beat, yeah, bad crippled knees. Anyways, let's get down the undercard now. Renan St. Just, is it St. Just or something like that, against Francis Lafrerne. Two Francophiles anyway, is it? Aye, well, two Quebecans. 10-round fight. I don't know what they are, but I watched it earlier on there. It was probably the only way I could describe it is, you know, these two guys were double hard bastards really, because that's essentially what they were. I did think the white guy won the fight. Actually, probably did the better work going down the stretch and that. You know, punched each other just at a standstill, and the black guy was, you know, I think he was ready to go in the 9th or 10th round, I think it was, but no, the white guy finished it through pretty strongly in the end. I can't even pronounce their names, guys, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But Dave, if you've seen the fight, mate, give me your take on it.
He's away.
Either way, what about yourself, Steve?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it was all right, but I don't know. You have to work on the context. I mean, I was only sort of flicking through it, fast forwarding through a few rounds. It seemed like a decent scrap, but I don't think I'm going to see too much of these guys in the future, so I wasn't really too fussed, but it was alright.
This must have been like something separate that you guys had on the UK, because they only had 2 fights on the American card. They had that one and the Kareem Mayfield fighting against that cat who's fucking Russian.
Oh, Mikalenko.
Yeah. I thought he might be something when I started watching him, but the more and more I watched him, he's kind of like a poor man's Postol, kind of. I don't see much for him in a stacked 147. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I wasn't that fussed on him either. He looked strong and he was very active, but he was limited, really technically limited. I thought, in a clear non-puncher. And early on in the fight, he was like trying the sort of swiping left hook and uppercut and that. But I mean, he was in against Mayfield there, Mayfield didn't even fight in 2015. He's been terribly inactive, and I think he was a late replacement for
10
Sugar
days.
Ray Robinson, not the dead one. So
the new Ray Robbins.
yeah,
We got a new Ray Robinson in his kitchen over here on the podcast.
I think that HBO
Sucker for the hook, man.
HBO seemed like they were taking a close eye on this guy, but I think it's more the fact that they're going on the Eastern European bandwagon on the HBO at the moment, sucking up everything, hoping it to be the next Triple G or the next Kovalev, and this Mihalenko ain't going to be going anywhere near that level on this evidence, but he might improve.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how they're trying to put up all the Argentine fighters for a while after Maidana and Matisse started making some noise, kind of. I get that. That's a pretty good observation there, man. Good call.
Did anybody catch that other fight I was talking about, the middleweight fight? The black guy against the white guy?
I've seen Renane St. Juice plenty of times before. I'm shocked if he got a gift decision. Because,
no,
I mean,
it was quite wide cards, actually, but it was actually quite pathetic. It was a closer fight than that. I think there's some of them were like, 5 points, and one was like 9 points or something.
That sucks, but I mean, he's been kind of a Canadian gatekeeper for, the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, as it seems. So, yeah. He's okay.
Well, that leads us to the first card from Sky Sports this year. Caught up with some of it, most of it anyway. Well, no, most of it. But George Groves back from the Badu Jack defeat, 5-round stoppage of Andre De Luisa. Again, as if you probably went to add on that, he would probably say he didn't really learn much last night. I think the only thing I could pick up from it was his jab was very, very good, upstairs and down. But you need to remember who the guy you're fighting here. This guy De Luisa is fucking he steps up in class. Who the fuck's doing that bang in the background? As I say, anytime he steps up in class, he gets fucking taken out. And obviously, beat a Booty, Rabras even stopped him, and Muhammad Ali Nandai actually beat him as well. So, probably the right opponent to get the rust off. Working a few things with Shane McGuigan, Steve. But how much did you take out of that fight last night, other than the fact that George Groves had his head on upside down?
Yeah, he is starting to transform. I keep getting told I look like George Groves, so I can't really say too much about it. But he's, you know what? I don't know. I don't really think anything of it, to be honest. I mean, he beat De Luisa. We knew he was going to beat him. It was never in doubt. I mean, people are saying, he's coming back, and it was a bit of a tune-up and getting rid of the rust. But this is a guy who poses to be at world level. This is a person who sees himself as a world champion. Every time he stepped up to that level, now, the Fox rematch, then the Badu Jack fight, and we all know what happened in the first one, but he hasn't been able to get there, which is no particular shame. I mean, if he loses for another world title fight, he's going to can McGuigan. It's always going to be the trainer's fault. I don't know. If he fought DeGale again in a rematch, I would strongly pick him out to beat him, because I think DeGale's improved exponentially since they fought, and Groves has just sort of plateaued and levelled off a little bit. He has a nice jab. He can throw the right hand. He always does that herky-jerky style, which I worry about, which I think he burns a lot of nervous energy, which makes him gas late in the fight. But he is what he is. I mean, we saw Di More the other week. We've got De Luisa now. I mean, they're just sort of nothing fights, really. We're going to have to see a better level of opposition before we can assess where Groves is. He can knock these guys out every day of the week, but when he gets to the 10th, 11th, 12th round of a championship fight against a Jack, a DeGale, or whoever, where's he going to be at then? Is the corner going to be able to change the habits of a lifetime? We'll have to find out then. As for now, we don't know.
Paul, do you think Jim Watt was right last night? What the fuck is that, Matty?
It's a fucking meme. It said, I told him to fuck me like a man. So he put it in my ass and called me Jeff.
Paul,
what the fuck?
Jim Watt said last night that the Badu Jack fight, George Groves probably perhaps didn't leave it all in the ring. Did you agree with that assessment?
No, I think he left it in the ring. I think he just didn't know what to do. I think we walked into that fight thinking all he had to do was show up and he'd beat a fairly limited world champion in Badu Jack. And in the end, he was just like he has in the past and he'll have in the future. He was just out fought and out techniqued and then to basically blame it all on Paddy Fitzpatrick, despite the fact that Paddy Fitzpatrick was actually giving him very clear, very concise instructions in the corner. He wasn't jumping up and down, wasn't screaming at him, but it was very much of the Adam Booth ilk of clear and obvious what he wanted him to do. And then Groves went out and fought his own way. I mean, I was a massive George Groves fan leading up to the Froch fight and even in the rematch, but that guy that fought last night is not the same fighter who was fighting in the build-up to Froch 1 and during that fight. He's got very long arms, so his style always looks quite gangly almost. He always looks like his arms are in odd positions. But yes, his jab looked nice, but his shot selection I thought was really poor. Considering he's fighting against a guy who had absolutely zero head movement. I mean, De Luisa was standing there all night for him to hit. And he always makes everything look really difficult. Like the simplest of things he was doing, it just looks like he was struggling. And they're talking about potential fights for him, like Martin Murray. I think that's not a bad fight. I think he'd do well against that kind of style. But I just don't know if Groves has it in him to win a world title. I think the split decision was kind on him. I thought that Badu Jack won. I had no issue with the scorecards. I thought he won that fight. And I don't know. There's something really two things I got from last night. One, I'm not quite sure if Groves is what we think he was going to be, and I think that when we've seen him in these sort of supposed warm-up fights against like Mama's Boy and in that fight last night, I mean, he looked good against Rabras, but watching him try and get motivated, and he also thinks he's much bigger than he is. You know, he's got his big entrance, he's got the England band there, but
you know, he's shocking last night, man.
Yeah,
He's Ricky Hatton's band to walk in England. Fuck off with that pish.
I mean, I don't mind when it's Hatton, when it's 50,000 people at the One Last Carno fight and he's doing it, but this was at the Copper Box in front of 4,500. You know, it's just, he's still, in his mind, George Groves thinks he's world champion. The level of disrespect he's shown towards Fitzpatrick. Do you know what? Fitzpatrick may have not been up for the job, but who gave him the job? George Groves, because George fell out with Adam Booth. That's George's fault, you know, and then to put the blame on the trainer. I mean, my other point with this is the fact that now in Britain, we've had 2 main events this year so far. You know, we're just coming to the end of January. 2 main event fights that have been absolute gross, pointless mismatches. Hayden Moore was shocking. And that fight last night, what was De Luisa ever meant to do? And people going, well, you know, it's good for Groves to get the cobwebs off. But this is a main event on Sky Sports. We only get a certain amount of these a year. And we just wasted one, in my view. I just thought it was a really, I don't know, a nothing fight. It was all one-sided, and you know, Eddie Hearn's looking at George Groves, thinking, right, which one of my fighters can I put him in with? Because I think he thinks he's very beatable. I think he thinks that Murray can beat him. I'm not so sure about that, but yeah, certainly you've got to back the likes of De Gale. You've got to back the likes of Abraham against Groves based on what we've seen from the last 12 months.
You tend to think that maybe Groves overanalyzes some things. He tries to be kind of smarter than what he should be. Rather than just get a fucking fight.
No, I think you're right, but I think he's not so much not active enough in the rounds. But like I said, he spent a long time training with David Haye, and David Haye, for all his explosiveness, could have a round or two where he just didn't seem to do anything. And Groves is similar. I think for McGuigan to really change him, he has to make him far smarter with his shots, and he has to really tighten him up. He has to fight a lot more like he did in the Froch rematch, where he chose to box rather than try and swing. He also always looks like, not that he's out of breath, but because his head's always bobbing forward, I'd worry with him against any heavy puncher. He looks like the kind of fighter who can be hurt quite easily. And like I said, I mean, I'm certainly not a Groves hater. Everyone that says that he's been frotched deserves to, you know, sit in an acid bath. I think it's
just been Cobra twice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a stupid notion that being knocked out has just ruined him as a fighter. I just think that fight showed his limitations, that his fitness over 12 rounds isn't good enough, and if he gets caught, he'll get put away. It's just, I'm disappointed because I really thought that he was going to be a really legit world champion. I thought he beat De Gale as an underdog. You know, he gave Froch an absolute pasting for 6 rounds, but that's not the same fighter. He just doesn't look, and yeah, he looks about 42 years old as well.
Look, he's delusional. We learned nothing last night. He's delusional. De Luisa's done naffle. Eddie Hearn and Sky just used it as a night to try and impress Groves, i.e. to keep him on the channel. They still see him, like Eubank in a way, as a seller that they can't keep control over. Eubank similar, Groves fits into that ilk. I just don't know what to say. He looks old. the man looks old, I think. As Paul said, I think his shot selection was pretty poor. He did jab well. We didn't learn anything. I would actually back him to beat Martin Murray. To be fair, with that style, I think he will be busier and too busy for Martin Murray. Although that sounds a bit strange, given that we're criticising Groves for not being busy enough. Yeah, what a terrible start to the year. Really terrible start to the year.
They can see him probably going down the WBO route, though. I can see him probably try to target the winner, Abraham, against Ramirez. Sorry, Matt, on you go, mate.
Are there any rumors about the kind of life that Groves leads outside the ring?
Well,
it's not one of those guys where he randomly pops up, like he was, drunk at a pub or something, getting bar fights or...
No.
He's not like that, mate.
I think outside the ring, he's married, he's very settled. I think, he didn't grow up, I think, on like a particularly tough estate and grow up poor. I think as you can tell, he's an articulate and he's an intelligent guy. But like I said, it's just that his ego and the way he talks sometimes is just, it's not like, like boxers when you hear them talk and you think like Tyson Fury and you think that you don't believe 90% of what you've just said. And fight is similar to that, but that's okay because that's so many boxers do it and, it's not necessarily scripted, but they're talking a particular way. I don't think George Groves is scripted. I don't think he thinks about what he says. I think that's genuinely how he is, and it just doesn't come across as a very nice person. And you know what? That doesn't really matter. This is boxing, but if you're trying to win fans over, James DeGale, who, he's a bit skittish, but if he wants to, he can turn on the taps and he can come across really well. If those two fought again, I think it'd be billed as, Groves being the baddie, and it'd just be more cannon fodder for a matchroom fighter. I think if Groves had his way, he would want to fight Abraham, or the winner of Abraham Ramirez. I don't think he likes her, and I think that's very apparent. And I don't think he'd want to serve himself up potentially for a loss against a Hearn fighter.
Do you think maybe kind of like because maybe he had like a better bit of an upbringing, he might get complacent because usually he might be the most athletic guy in a room, given the circles he's always run with in his life. So in the sparring he gets just elevates his confidence, and he never really sees anything that challenges him. Kind of like a Chad Dawson. I mean, Donnie's from fucking Connecticut. I mean, how badass do you have to be to get on in Connecticut?
The thing is, it's difficult. You've also got to look at the fact that as much as it's the annoying line, but George Groves was involved in arguably, and there are people that will go nuts for me saying this, arguably the biggest all British fight of all time. In terms of stadium, in terms of the build-up to it, in terms of pay-per-view market. And it's got to be a knock to his ego. That first of all, that's going to do one thing. That's going to increase your ego. That's going to put you on a plateau of you thinking you are the biggest name in Britain. And then when you're having to fight the De Luises of the world and you're having to manoeuvre yourself into these positions, but he's been given great platforms, He was given that Froch, he forced the Froch fight, but he had the opportunity. He was given a shot against, in my opinion at the time, the worst super middleweight champion active, and he just didn't do enough. He strikes me as one of those fighters where...
lethargic against Jack. It was like he thought he could just show up and win.
Exactly, that's the thing. He really thought he was going to show up and win that fight. Like last night, he was going to show up and win because De Luisa offered nothing. But against Jack, that was his big shot. He's been in with a very tough champion in Carl Froch, and he was in with a technical fighter who he has proven in the past that he can handle technical guys well, but he didn't. And I think that he's fighting on a big Mayweather undercard. He's had all these opportunities, and he's only had 25 fights, and yet, like I say, he looks in his 40s.
Andy will tell you, though, as I have said before and time again, Badu Jack, perpetually underrated.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we'll wait and see.
Underwhelming to me.
I'm like Matty there, actually.
Future pound for pound, Badu Jack.
Oh, bullshit.
Whoa, calm down.
You're just saying that because he's the best. You're saying that because he's the best Swedish black boxer who's ever existed.
Well, what about Ingemar Johansson?
Because he's the best boxer signed to Floyd Mayweather.
It wasn't black, was it?
All right, yeah.
Well, there you go. I've limited the pool quite a bit there, Donald.
Oh yeah, all right. I forgot about the black qualifier there. Yeah, sorry.
Right, George Groves. Why did it take him three fights and 3 losses to realise that he had the wrong trainer? Now, he got with Paddy Fitzpatrick shortly before the first Froch fight. We know what happened there. Kept him for the second fight, which he was doing quite well in until he got blasted out and Cobra'd flat on his back, unconscious. And then the third fight. Why is it took him 3 losses to realise that Paddy's the wrong man? I mean, it's the simple typical Brit behaviour. When they lose, they blame the trainer. It's took him 3 fights to realise that. He's deluded, his fans are deluded, and George Groves is deluded.
Stop saying Cobra. Please stop saying Cobra.
Even with everything that's happened to John Groves.
He got flattened.
I'll have that. You can say he was flat. But you know what as well? Do you know why he picked Paddy Fitzpatrick? 2 reasons why he picked Fitzpatrick. Cheaper option, and I'm not saying he's a yes man as a term of disrespect. He's a smaller time trainer, and George Groves, in my opinion, needed someone to hold his towel. That's what he thought he needed. He thought
George Groves. Yeah, I agree. For the second fight, George Groves pretty much trained himself.
Yeah, he trained himself.
Yeah.
He trained himself.
Yeah.
And Adam, I've got a serious question for you, right? What's going on with George Groves' tattoos? Because I was having a good close look at them last night, right? We've got a magnet, a shamrock, and the gingerbread man. Have you got any answers?
No, I've not got any answers. He's honestly, he looks old. He looks old. He's got all that facial hair going on. He's losing it on top. You know, I don't know. I don't know. His tattoos are shocking. He's losing. George Groves could not grow a full head of hair.
Fucking
he could not grow one of these because he is bald.
Okay. Did he? He hasn't gotten any of those stupid Chinese tattoos, has he?
No.
Well, that's good. I mean, those are just like ridiculously stupid. I mean, you don't see Chinese people going out and getting water written on their forearm.
We got Steve saying that his tattoos don't fit a theme or a schematic or something. and then Adam's like, and I think he's losing it a bit on top. This is fucking boxing. This isn't a beauty pageant. I mean,
this is like the View. This is like the View.
Have tattoos. That's intimidating. I mean, you
but
found
often,
listen,
if you look at these things, sometimes it tells you a psychological state. Though a lot of time, like a lot of times, fighters when they lose, it's like
Pavlik.
We're caught up in a society. You know, if you've noticed, like beards, tattoos, and all that shit, it's all about manly and macho and shit like that. And we get drawn into it, like, I got my fucking shit pushed in a boxing ring. I know what will make me tough. I'm gonna get a tattoo on my back. It's mental, but that's what they're doing.
Look at the state of Pavlik. Wait, no, look at the state of Pavlik after he fucking lost to Hopkins.
I do like the irony that Matty with a beard and Adam with a receding hairline are criticising George Groves' beard and receding hairline.
Yeah. Right.
The difference is I actually live out in the country. I can be rural and rustic because I be rural and rustic.
Steve, I didn't catch much of the John Ryder Siggy Kaminski fight in John Wayne Hibbert against Tommy Martin, but I did understand Martin was starting to box his way back into that fight until he misjudged the count. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, well, I'll speak briefly on Ryder Kaminski because I didn't really see Hibbert Martin with any closeness to comment on that. But regarding Ryder Kaminski, very briefly, Ryder, I'm not really that impressed with him. He did okay. Kaminski, we all know what he is, but John Ryder, I think he sort of found his level and a little confidence booster for him. But regarding the other one, I only saw the first few rounds and then I saw it was only flicking back and forward. So maybe Paul or Adam would know more about that one.
Paul,
yeah, I think it was a good. To be fair, Martin Hibbert was the fight of the night from the Sky point of view. It was a decent scrap. I think that. I mean, I had Tommy Martin cost me my accumulator last night, so I wasn't very happy with him. But I thought that Hibbert just looked a much better pro. He looked much bigger. Martin looks very thin in his legs. He looked very small at the weight, and Hibbert looked massive. And I just thought that he held the centre of the ring. You know, he was getting his shots off first. The Sky in the end were trying to make out as though, and the list of Belly of the Week nominations from Nick and Jim was just going to be epic this week. But Sky were making out as though Martin had pulled himself right back into it. He'd certainly won, you know, some of the later rounds, but Hibbert was a good 3 rounds ahead. And the stoppage, it was just a case of Tommy Martin got the count wrong. I mean, a lot of people, including me, were sort of criticising the ref at the time, but the rule in the British ring is quite simple. If you rise at the count of 9, you will get counted out. Yeah, it's 9, stand, waved off.
Yep.
And, you know, he was too late. He got the count wrong. He was looking at his corner. And then Martin said afterwards that when he thought the ref said 7, the ref actually said 8. So he was too slow getting up. But the fight, he wasn't going to win anyway. It's a big win for Hibbert. And like I said, on these matchroom shows, it's not a coincidence, and this has happened numerous times, the best fights have been the central area, southern area, you know, the Midlands title. These kind of bouts are producing the most entertaining fights because they're well matched. The bookies usually have them very close, certainly close in terms of boxing, and it was a decent scrap. And it's like I said, but they are often buried down the card. And Kaminski, Ryder, It was very, very boring, but I think that's what John Ryder needed it to be. I think John Ryder, it was made quite apparent to Ryder that if he blew this, then that was his Matchroom / Sky Sports career done. He really needed the win. I think obviously he's had a couple of, not bad losses, but a couple of difficult losses against Billy Joe and Nick Blackwell and Kaminski. You know, sometimes you get a very good Kaminski show up with the power, and sometimes you get that Kaminski. And again, I think he's in his 40s now. He's getting on. He's had, I think that was his 13th loss last night. So I just think it was a needed win for Ryder, but it wasn't a particularly good fight.
John Ryder just did what he had to do last night. It was pretty boring, and he tried to box, and because Kaminski didn't really have him in trouble at any point, and Kaminski's punch output was never enough to really trouble John Ryder. The Hibbert fight and the Martin fight, like Paul, I lost money on that one as well. Surprise, surprise. That was the best fight of the night, really. I thought the commentary, to be fair, and this is the positive round, the little initiative that I introduced that Steve Welling stole. I think that the commentary on that fight was the best I've heard from Sky for a while. I think they called it pretty well. They said that Hibbert looked the pro, he looked the bigger man, he was getting there first. Martin was wasting a lot of energy. I'm basically repeating what they said because I thought it was bang on. I thought Martin was coming back into it, and I actually backed after like the 6th or 7th round. I actually backed Martin to win by KO at a massive price, like 25-1, only a fiver, but. I thought he was starting to get to Hibbert a little bit, and Hibbert, having had the great start, I thought was showing signs that he could fall apart, but he kept at it, Hibbert, and he's been involved in some good fights. Hibbert, he is one of the luckiest people in the British ring last year when Dave Ryan's back went. Hibbert got lucky. He was getting absolutely hammered in that fight. He was losing clearly on all cards. But as Paul said, he's the type of fight, English title, maybe British title. There's a few in and around that way, especially from the London area, to be fair. He might sell a ticket or two, and he'll be in scraps, John Wayne Hibbert. So credit to him. Tommy Martin has just been found out. He was pretty much too young, to be honest. I thought he was impressive in his last fight, but last night he's just got found out, and he'll have to come again. But really, hats off to him for, at that age, taking that type of fight against such an old pro in John Wayne Hibbert. So fair dues to both of them. Good fight.
And final quick point on it, just to because Adam, obviously, because he did praise the commentary in this John Ryder Sergei Kaminski fight, Nick Halling said, "You don't knock this guy out." Well, he has been stopped 3 times.
Andy said it would be a sensational performance if he were to stop him. A sensational performance to stop a guy who's been stopped 3 times and he's 42 years old. And
he also managed to say that it was I can't think what they said during the same fight, that it was a real scene stealer. I presume he meant a real scene stealer, but I wasn't quite sure what he was trying to say. But yeah, I got it down as steam stealer.
That's one Kel Brooks lines in it, Burnstormer.
But like I said, last point. All I'll say on it is Sky. I mean, when's the next Sky show? Is it Frampton? I don't know what we've got. No, what we've got next. And we've also, with the Flanagan Matthews fight being postponed, it's not been a very good start to the year, and I know we're trying to be positive on this podcast now, but it's just not been good, is it? In my view, I just think it's been poor from all round and on this side of the pond.
Is it really that big of a loss? Like Flanagan Matthews being postponed, I mean, is that big of a deal? I mean,
No, I mean it's not, but that's what I mean. That was like a decent-ish fight. I mean, Flanagan's heavy favourite, but a proper fight rather than just a showcase main event. Showcase fights down the card, fine. If you got to do them, you got to do them. But 2 main events, 2 showcases with 2 opponents who are completely limited. It's just not. It's just not good to watch. It's just not good TV. It's not good if you've paid money to go watch it in the arena. And yeah.
In general, though, boxing always starts any year off. I don't know why it is, but it always seems like after the holidays, it's like a little bit of a lull.
Super Bowl week too.
Pardon?
Super Bowl week coming up. We never really have much going on during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but there's always a lull until about mid-February, and then things get going.
Right, Adam, I need to mute you, mate, because you're doing too much work in the background. We're getting a lot of feedback off you there. But just in closing the fight reviews, just to kind of let everyone know, as I've probably heard us discussing it, guys, in the DM chat, but fight from Thailand, Chanachai CP Freshmart lost to Dexter Alimento. Now, after I think it was the 7th or 8th round. I was after 8th round actually. China Cha went back to his corner and sat down, and then about 5-10 seconds later collapsed from his stool. I did tweet at the time when I was watching it. I did think the medical response was pretty lax. It wasn't my exact words at the time, but I did think it was pretty disgraceful that his corner actually, the guy's lying there fucking out of the game, and there's no medical guys there to help him. There's no oxygen mask, and his corner did what? They fucking slapped him in the face, try to fucking bring him round and stuff like that.
That's a fucked up game in Asia, in Asia, especially Southeast Asia. Who was Ponslek Wonjong? Was he the one that was saying like he would get $300,000 purses, but he'd only end up receiving like $30,000 out of it? And I mean, it seems to be a very, very systematic from the top down. You know, like you have the commissions, and then they have a few promoters that answer to them, and the promoters have certain trainers that work for them, and then the fighters are there, and then everybody just kind of rips off the fighters going up the line, and they do not give a fuck about them. They just want to find ways to get them in as many fights as possible, and that's why they, you know, you see so many fights with these guys going against, you know, cats that only have 5 or 6 fights, but they had Muay Thai careers and stuff like that. They just keep them active, make money all the time.
Well, his promoter anyway, from whatever part of Thailand it was in, actually flew down to the hospital and stuff, and they would pay his medical expenses and stuff. He just wondered if maybe actually managed to put some medical people actually at ringside, get oxygen into him straight away after he collapsed and stuff. But basically, he's just on the stretcher, straight out the ring, and whatever into a waiting ambulance. He did have a slight brain bleed, still unconscious, and I believe he had some slight feeling. That was like early Saturday morning, so.
Do we know? I looked online today and I didn't see any like status updates on him.
No, there's a guy on Twitter. There's a guy on Twitter called John or James Goodyear, I think it is. He's based in Asia. He was the one that was tweeting about it and stuff. It says I posted a link up on Twitter yesterday. Actually, it's some Thai website. He was basically stating that the guy was in hospital, was unconscious, and had a slight brain bleed.
Yeah, well, when it comes to brain bleed, there's no such thing as slight. First of all,
you're either bleeding on your brain or you're not.
Yeah. I mean, it's very fucking serious. I mean, for a while, actually, right after the Abdi Salamov fight, people thought that he was going to be okay because they were like, oh, I mean, I remember actually listening to our podcast like back again. I think maybe I listened to it like a month ago or something. I don't know, just I was in the car and I had nothing else to do, and I was in a place where there was no cell service, so I was just listening back to our podcast after that, and I think we were like, well, it was medically induced coma, and you know, it was a brain bleed, but usually they do that for safety, and like, look, now the guy today, poor fellow's a vegetable. I mean, you know, we were more optimistic about it then, but I mean, the end of these stories isn't oftentimes, it often isn't very good. And it's just kind of weird too, because if you think about it, I mean, I watched that fight on YouTube, and I watched the replay of it. I mean, yeah, he was taking some good shots. He was giving some good shots. Certainly, I certainly wouldn't say he had a concussion or anything. I mean, he didn't get knocked down or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, the guy just collapsed, and it's like, this stuff always seems to happen in boxing, doesn't it? Like, you know, in the NFL, guys take huge hits on every single play, but they don't seem to all of a sudden collapse and, you know, go into comas and stuff.
But it catches up with them down the road if you look at all what they're dealing with.
Yeah, but why do guys just all of a sudden do like a collapse and like, you know, collapse into, you know, into the corner?
Because it's repeated. It's the constant flow of blows. Like if you go back, like a good guy to reference is Pascal. If you look at the way, like, he's not hitting anyone particularly hard. He just repeatedly does it, you know, and like, and if you think about that, and you know, your brain, it rests in your skull, and there's that little bit of give to it, the fluid around it. I mean, and your brain is constantly jostling. And so if you keep getting tabbed back and forth, I mean, it's fuck, all sorts of shit could happen. You know, that's why I err on the side of caution when calling people quitters, unless their name rhymes with picture Tortiz. There you go.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, just in general, obviously we hope for and pray for his safety, and yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough over there too because yeah, I mean,
fucking bowl of rice.
I've been over to Thailand myself. Actually, I stayed there for about 2 weeks once, and I mean, it's huh?
Lady Boy Central.
I was thinking the same thing.
Whatever, man. Yeah, no.
I went for 12 days for 12-year-olds, and here we are.
You like smoking that Asian stick, baby.
And I mean, there are parts of the country that are very wealthy, but there are parts of the country that are very poor as well. And I mean, you'd have to think if he was in a Western hospital or something, he might be have a better chance. I don't know how he'll end up there, but obviously we hope for his safety. So.
Right, first Twitter question comes in from Aussie Smith. Adam asks, who is the best UK 140-pound fighter and why?
Oh God.
From Bolton, England.
That's
Nah,
147 now.
Oh Jesus, that's
147. Okay, sorry.
140. I'll go for Lenny Dawes.
No, I'm not having Lenny Dawes. I'm gonna go. It's between Curtis Woodhouse and Darren Hamilton.
Ashley Theophane.
Talk about an empty division.
Yeah.
In the UK, let me have a quick look here. You've got
Willie Lemond.
you got Johnny
No.
Coyle.
He did drop Amir Khan.
Willie Lemon's a lightweight.
Didn't he fight? Yeah, he fought Morales. Not many fighters can say they did that.
Yeah, but you've got like Joe
Ricky
Hughes,
Burns.
Jack Cattrall, Tyrone Nurse, Dave Ryan, John Wayne Hibbert,
Jack
Ashley
Cattrall.
Theophane.
Jack Cattrall.
No, Jack.
He's
No.
the number one in the division.
No, he will beat all of them.
Steve, Lenny Dawes, is that a fair shout, mate?
Yeah. I don't know. Who wants to know? Is this a troll question?
No, it's a
This
question.
is a really crappy question. But who sent this in?
At Aussie Smith 1.
All right, let me just go abuse him.
Christ.
Whoa, we're not going to start abusing listeners.
Right, okay. Donny, this is from Fury's Boxing Clinic at Ben Thorne's. Roach is a myth built up by Pac-Man's brilliance.
Yes.
Really?
Oh, that's what he's asking. Is he a myth built up on Pac-Man's brilliance?
I mean, look, look. I mean, I think Roach is very, very good at a couple of things. I think he's very good at getting fighters who have good chins to really open up and make the most out of their offense. You could say what you want about Cotto. I'm not the biggest fan either, but he got him to use that left hook to the body more when he forgot about it for a couple of years, as if it didn't exist when in fact it was his best punch. If you have a style that is prone to good offense, I think Roach can really bring the most out of that. He's also he's trained a lot of guys mid-career. I know he hasn't really brought anybody from the ground so much, but he's been in everybody's corner. And I mean, there can't be a reason that he's been in the corner of Tyson. He's been in the corner of Paulie Ayala. Not Paulie Ayala. Who did Paulie Ayala fight? The guy that just died, Johnny Tapia. He's been in Tapia's corner. He's been
James
in
Toney.
James Toney. I mean, he's literally worked the corner of everybody at some point, and he did learn from Eddie Futch. I think he obviously has a good barometer as well. He's not one of those people who's in it for himself. He didn't try to keep Pascal in that fight last night. He knew when to pull the plug on that whole that whole situation. I mean,
just looking at the list of fighters here, right? We got Brian Valoria, Israel Vasquez, Tyson, Toney, Johnny Tapia, Marlon Starlin, Rigondo, Peter Quillen, Craig McEwen, Wayne McCullough, Jorge Linares, Vlad Klitschko, with apparently assistant trainer, Frankie Lyles, a no bad fighter, Virgil Hill, De La Hoya, Steve Collins.
Well, I think we get a little hard on trainers a bit because we build them up. I mean, part of our failings is we build someone up and we kind of make a legend out of them in our own ways. And you got to think it's really, really rare when a trainer has a few guys that he really gets the best out of, and they really have that kind of lifelong relationship, like Roach has with Pacquiao. You got to get into guys that have been around the game a little bit longer even for their training. You've got a guy like Abel Sanchez, and he had Terry Norris, and now he has Golovkin. I think Golovkin ultimately will exceed Norris in what he's done. But everyone has someone they're going to gel with perfectly if they find that person, and they'll make the most out of them. But trainers work well with certain styles, and we can't dismiss them based on a fight or a fighter. It's just what do they bring to the game, and if there's something lacks that he brings to the game, he's the right guy for that fighter. He was perfect for Manny Pacquiao, though, and that's what Freddie Roach will be remembered. He was perfect for Manny Pacquiao. They complement each other as well as any training duo in history.
Steve Kel Smith asks, with Brook taking another mandatory, saying the belt is key, do you think if he had a hard mandatory against Spence, would he still take it?
Brook against Spence?
Yeah. If that had been the mandatory had been called rather than Busy.
I would have liked to think that he would have. Yeah. The fact that he went over to America and fought Porter, I would like to think so. But Bizier is not a very good opponent, is he? But I mean, I suppose they could say, oh, it's the mandatory, like Dan was the mandatory. But yeah, I can see what the guy is saying. But I would like to think so. I mean, I can't say any more than that. But I'm skeptical.
You just wonder actually if Busy is the mandatory, isn't he?
Mm.
Yep.
Right. So
I think you just have to wonder. I mean, like, I think the reason why he's so desperate to make this con fight for the summer is because come January, Errol Spence is going to be his mandatory.
Well, this is what I'm beginning to think.
Yeah, I mean, and so I mean, you know, sure, he could try to say, well, I can fight Khan next summer. But what if he loses to Errol Spence? Then he loses his whole bargaining chip. He loses his belt.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you're absolutely right, though. Amir Khan is a way easier fight than Errol Spence for Kell Brook.
You know, I'll actually agree with that in the sense that it's not an easier fight. I'm not going to say it's an easier fight, but it's worth a shitload of money, which I think that if you were like Kell Brook, you're like, well, Errol Spence is a risk. Let me make my money first, and then if I have to defend that mandatory against Errol Spence, well, then I'll do it. At least I made my money. You know, my money is made. It's in the bank if he fights Khan this summer, whereas if he tries to put that Khan fight off, the Khan payday could disappear.
Matty, questioning from Matt Caulfield, will Gilberto Ramirez beat Arthur Abraham? If so, would he be rated above DeGale? Also, can Groves beat Abraham?
You know, the thing, I just don't rate Abraham that much. His entire 168-pound career has been built over shitty mandatories and fucking Robert Stieglitz, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's been the whole wealth of it. And I've seen Ramirez in person. From my vantage point, I thought that he lost to Maxim Vlasov. But that being said, like, I just don't think that much of Abraham at 168, and I think Ramirez will beat him because we're getting him out of his country, where there to definitely be fair judging at it. He's a long guy. He has decent volume, which I think are two things that Abraham struggles with a lot. But he's another guy.
What's the chin like?
He hasn't been checked by anyone, though. That's the thing. He hasn't really fought a puncher. That's the one question. Can Abraham knock him out? Yeah. If I was going to bet that, honestly, what I would bet is I'd take Ramirez to win, and I'd bet the under because I would think Ramirez is going to win. But if Abraham's going to win, it's because Ramirez is chinny, and we don't yet know it.
So what about Groves?
But he's not better than DeGale. Groves can beat Abraham, I think. If he gets a little more active, he's got a good jab. Good jabs kill Abraham. But who cares? I mean, Ramirez, Groves. I think DeGale is better than them now. I think a few years ago Groves was rated better. 168 has really kind of cleared out right now, and it's kind of anyone's ball game. It's kind of fun.
Paul, Mad Max. What the fuck?
That's not me.
Someone was swirling their brandy.
Yeah, that was me.
Right, shut the fuck up. Right. Paul, Mad Max asks, apart from the Gale, which was close, what is Groves' best win, and is it better than any Callum Smith or Rocky Fielding has on their record?
Yeah, it's difficult because obviously first of all, Rocky Fielding, yes, because Rocky Fielding hasn't beaten anybody.
Whoa, 1 minute. They both beat Noe Gonzalez.
Yeah, as I was saying, Rocky Fielding hasn't beaten anybody.
Yeah, but who's Groves beat better than him?
Beat Chavez
Well,
Jr.'s daddy.
I know you're not going to like it, but he did do something to Paul Smith, which James DeGale, Arthur Abraham twice, Andre Ward didn't do, and that was completely take him out. I mean, what was it, the second round? When George Groves knocked out Paul Smith. Now, we all know that Paul Smith isn't exactly a world beater, but this happened before he went the distance with Abraham twice. So I think that's probably got to go down as in terms of his best win in terms of name. You know, the Glenn Johnson fight, he didn't look brilliant in that, and it was a very old Glenn Johnson. As much as he won every round, it wasn't exactly an exciting fight, but very people do look good against him. And again, other opponents, you know, your Adamus, your Kenny Andersons have gone on to do nothing since. But that was because he sort of got thrust from quite a low level up to world title shot. If you look actually his run before Froch, he didn't really fight a huge amount of opponents. But yeah, definitely him blasting out Paul Smith in 2 rounds is better than anything that Rocky's done. And I think that Callum Smith may go on to be very, very good, but I don't think Callum beating Fielding is better than in a round is better than Groves beating Smith in 2 at that stage.
Tell you one thing, he got lucky with Kenny Anderson. Very, very lucky. I always say that stoppage was quite dodgy as well.
Rematch.
I don't know. I mean, I was there for that one. That was on one of the Hay undercards, wasn't it?
Shit, the rematch. It was a Hay Frodley fight, I think.
Yeah, so I was there for that. And again, but I mean, to be fair, that was, like I said, Groves was explosive though. He got hurt and he was in trouble in that fight. But I didn't have a massive amount of issue with the stoppage. And then obviously the rematch, all the stuff that went on behind the scenes with that, stuff that we probably from a legal point of view, you can't really get into. But that did seem a mess. I thought that Groves could have really done with that rematch, but he didn't get it. But, you know, like I said, he's beaten, I forgot DeGale. Did you say apart from DeGale?
Apart from DeGale, he said.
Apart from DeGale, I was going to say, right, okay, because apart from DeGale, then Paul Smith in 2 rounds is better than Callum knocking out Fielding in a round.
Yeah. This question, or Lord, if I can find the fucking thing. Donny, another question for Mad Max. If Kid Galahad wouldn't have been banned, would he be world champion just now, and where does he fit in when he returns?
No.
Who? Kid Galahad?
No. Next question.
No.
No.
World champion. Where does he fit when he comes back into action then?
He's going to have to go domestic. Maybe a rematch with Jazza Dickens. I know that might sound a little bit silly, but he's doing okay at the minute. Another 18 months in Jazza Dickens, rematch, win, back in it.
Okay. Right, Donny, I'll give you this one then. Matt Caulfield asks the second question. I know you guys don't care about this, but the winner could possibly be a Hay opponent. Chagaev versus Brown. Give me your prediction.
Oh, Brown.
Aye?
It would be funny if Brown wins.
I mean, how old is Chagaev?
Chagaev must be, 36, 37?
Do you remember Chagaev fighting Matt Skelton in 2007?
Yeah. I thought he was older than that, really.
Where are you?
Lucas Brown is terrible. Lucas Brown does not win that fight.
He is sloppy, but damn it, I'll tell you what. I've had some good interactions with him on Twitter. Lucas, he's a damn.
Sorry.
The thing is, let me just say this though. Who gives a fuck about this fight? Because it's really not for attention.
Yeah. Hold on.
Who gives about? Like, who cares about this fight? Like, it doesn't matter.
Do you know why this fight's relevant? Do you know why this fight's relevant? Because in Gilberto Mendoza's tournament, this fight and this belt is effectively an equal to what Tyson Fury has. In his words of, this is a not so much the mandatory, but he's on the other side of it, isn't it? So it's going to be Perez on the one side, not Perez, Ortiz, sorry, on the one side, and then the winner of this is supposedly a legit shout for an equal for Tyson Fury. Yeah, for Ortiz and Fury. So as much as, it's this is one of the worst WBA belts. This was for me because they've stuck it in Chechnya. No opponent's ever going to get a fair shot. I don't think Lucas Brown is good enough to beat Shagayev. I don't think Lucas Brown's going to be in at world level. And to say he's good at interacting on Twitter, that he might be, but he's still awful. He's still struggled with opponents that the likes of Hugh Fury's done better than against. And he's just too big and cumbersome. I think Shagayev easily outboxes him. Yeah. But
I wasn't
shall
saying
see.
anything from a style. Yeah, I wasn't saying anything from a stylistic standpoint. I'm just saying, you know what? There's not that many really awesome, great, people who are good, interactive, and really seem to appreciate their fans and shit. I just hope, for the sake of it, that a good guy comes out on top once. Like one of them Rocky stories where it's just will beats skill, and it's fun to watch every once in a while. Lucas, you got some love coming from here, man. Go kick some ass.
Can I say one thing about Twitter as well? Can whoever the Gennady Golovkin's Twitter account, it's really right. It's not him. Like, it's not even like close to pretending it's him. Like, these other fighters who use Twitter, you think, you know what? Some of them, especially some of the Heyman lot, they did have the PR company that was sending out tweets for them. But the rest of the time, it is genuinely them sat on their phones. Golovkin's Twitter is just Tom Loeffler sat in his office, and I really wish they'd stop doing it.
Right, next question. Steve, Ricky Gravel asks, how do the pod think Calzaghe, Froch, Kessler and Tony would have done against Kovalev at light heavyweight?
Interesting. Tony at light heavyweight.
Tony survives the distance. I can guarantee you that much.
Oh, I definitely, yeah. I think Tony gives him a lot of problems. Who are the other ones?
Froch, Calzaghe and Kessler.
Kessler, battles of the jabs. You'd have to think Kovalev would have too much for Kessler, probably.
Especially light heavyweight, anyway.
Yeah, definitely at light heavyweight. The only Kessler fight at light heavyweight I can think of is the Alan Green fight, and he looked a bit out of sorts, got dropped that night as well. Calzaghe, again, up at light heavyweight. Calzaghe gives a lot of people problems, doesn't he? Be able to neutralise that power. Froch. Probably knock him out.
Froch is going to knock him out?
No, I think he'd probably knock Froch out. I don't know, it's difficult hypothetically.
Whoa!
What?
Whoa. Cole Froch is the boy.
You fucking sinners.
It's difficult because Kovalev's at his prime now, but Pascal rematches aren't enhancing his prime, and we have to see him against.
The real issue is that Joe Calzaghe was probably in his prime at 168, whereas Kovalev's in his prime at 175.
Yeah.
I think
nobody would fight Calzaghe in his prime.
What?
Calzaghe wouldn't fight anybody.
Yeah, exactly. He had the WBO title and they held it hostage, didn't they, with Frank? I mean, that's a story in itself.
Here we go, right, moving on.
Let's
next
not
question.
go down
Fucking
that
haters. They're all haters.
Next question. Adam, Boxing Banter UK asks, what would get a greater attendance, a Kovalev-Stevenson press conference or Frank Warren's next show at the MEN?
I'm going to have to go with answer number 1, please. Thank you. What is going on? He's got tendonitis. I mean, anyone can claim they've got tendonitis. It's like Derry Matthews or whoever it is that's got injured. It's like Flanagan going off with stress.
It's funny as fuck because I think Frank Warren actually released a statement saying that he had severe tendonitis, and then about a day or two later, what's his name? Oh, his manager, is it Steve Woods? I forget his fucking name. Anyway,
he said it wasn't that bad.
It was a minor issue, so someone's been economical with the truth.
I tell you what'll happen. Frank Warren, by the end of 2016, will have a fighter postponed due to stress.
Yeah, well, I'll leave
the stress of working for
Frank
Warren.
You'd be stressed if you were working for free as well.
Oh.
Exactly.
The fight's been delayed because they put it on the day before Valentine's Day on that weekend, and it's done less than 2,000 tickets. I don't believe in an injury. That's just a fact.
Yeah, well, that's pretty dumb though, because every guy that
there's too many. There's too many faggots out there who actually going to get dictated to by their women and stuff. They take them out for meals and.
But why can't? Like I say, it's the old age problem. This is it's an interesting, if not potentially one-sided fight with a very crowd-pleasing fighter in Derry Matthews. I can't recall a bad or a boring Derry Matthews fight. Terry Flanagan looks like he's a real threat at lightweight, and yet they just can't sell it. It's bizarre. But there you go.
Next question. Donnie Jack asks, when Kovalev is retired, will he look back at him as being the best fighter to come over here for the last 20 plus years?
Well, I mean, to say that, you're saying from Eastern Europe specifically, because I mean, if you're saying that, you have to include Pacquiao in that, and I don't know if he eclipses Pacquiao, but I mean, he's certainly up there.
Is the question about UK? As in, does he mean best fighter to come to the UK?
I'm assuming that.
Wait,
I'm
I
assuming
thought.
that.
Wait, can you repeat the question?
There's no mention about UK-US relations here. It just says, when Kovalev is retired, will he look back at him as being the best fighter to come over here in the last 20 plus years?
I think he means UK.
Yeah.
I've got a good answer to this. I'm not
Yusuf
saying
Mack?
no. I'm not saying over his lifetime he's going to be regarded as good as Kovalev. So let me just put that straight. But world class performance wise, Zolane Tete was better than Kovalev versus Cleverly.
Wait, hang on. What about Tim Bradley coming over for?
I was there. That was in Nottingham. I was there.
Terence Crawford.
And Terence Crawford came over to beat Ricky Burns. I think.
Yeah, Crawford. Yeah.
Mike McCallum beat Michael Watson.
Mm-hmm. And Tony Jetta beat. No, he didn't.
Right, next question. Matty,
James Tony and prize fighter.
Darren Parsons asks a question, Matty. Why did Roach listen to a fighter's heart and allow him to go out for another round? Is he that desperate for a win? Awful decision.
I don't know. I mean, what's the fucking worst thing that's going to happen to him? He'll get Parkinson's? Oh, wait.
Whoa.
Oh, that's dick. All right, first of all, I don't think that there was anything wrong with that. I mean, yes, he was getting beaten up, but he was still
Parkinson's.
He was still defending himself, and Freddie Roach was.
What do you mean defending himself? By not going down? By fucking Kovalev back? By allowing Kovalev to back off to keep the ref from fucking stopping it?
But no, what I'm saying, think about it. He wasn't throwing back, which usually is grounds for stopping it. Yes, but he was defending.
He threw
himself.
108 punches in 7 rounds.
I'm just saying, when he got back into that corner, Freddie was going to stop it. And you know that he was going to stop it because he went out and told the referee, he said, if he gets stuck up against the ropes, I want you to stop it, right? So he gave the ref the, sort of the signal, if you will, hey, go ahead and stop this if you feel like you got to stop it. So I think he just wanted, to give his fighter one chance.
I made a joke. The simple fact of it, the simple fact is sports fans do believe in miracles because we've seen them happen, and we always believe that there's a chance. We got to give them a chance, so let it happen, and that's what it was. But I just wanted to make a joke that might beat my fucking Haitian AIDS joke, but you fucked it up, Donnie.
Well, the Haitian AIDS joke was actually funny.
Goddamn right it was.
Right, Paul, Macho Grande question asks, any combination of Groves, Murray, Callum Smith should be easy to make. What are the chances we see any of these fights in 2016?
Well, there's a chance we'll see them, but the Groves Murray thing, Eddie Hearn said in the IFL interview, that's he said, well, obviously that wouldn't be their next fight, as if it needs building. It's two guys who, at best, they'll be able to make a final eliminator or some sort of eliminator for it. Two guys who have got 6 world title losses between them, and the idea that fight needs building, it's just ridiculous. That should just be the next fight. It makes total sense. Both men are at that point in their career where Murray up at super middleweight, Groves coming off the back of those tough losses. Either one of them's going to progress. They don't really need to. There isn't really room in the sport for both. So make the fight. I just don't understand why it would be built. What they're going to build it for? If we see Groves and Murray in 2 knockover jobs next, it's just ridiculous. And I hate this notion that you have to build a fighter back up. You don't. Groves knows what he needs to do. He knows what he needs to do at world level. He's just not been able to execute it. Knocking out Mama's Boy and knocking out Luisa isn't going to make him better at world level. It's just going to give him a chance to let his hands go. And it's the risk of him potentially coming in stuck in a fight like that. So Groves Murray is one of the most obvious fights to make. I think that's got to happen, but I want to see it next. I don't want to have to wait for it.
The problem is that we live in the post-Mayweather-Pacquiao era, where it's been proven that if you basically just sort of lead fight fans on for a bit, and you postpone it and you let it marinate, quote unquote, for longer and longer and longer, and the longer you fucking tease the fans, the more money you can make off of the fight. And so now I think every big fight that you fucking want to see, you're never going to see it when you want to see it. You're always going to see it about at least 12 months after you thought it would have been, the best time to see it.
I've just never liked doing it. Like I said, I've said it on Twitter earlier, one of my one of my fights I really, really wanted to see, and it seemed silly at the time considering what Orlando Salido did to him, but Juan Manuel Lopez versus Gamboa, I was absolutely desperate to see that fight, and Aaron was just like, we'll let it build, sticking them on the same cards, we'll let it marinate, and it didn't happen. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but the amount of times we've seen, Bellew and Cleverly fighting on the same card and not fighting each other, it's just, I don't know, it just makes the fights. We haven't got all this time, and like I said, you can't have every show being fighters waiting for the next one and waiting for the next one. And it's not like this is a mega fight. Frampton Quigg in the UK will be a very big fight. That took a long time to get through. Stevenson Kovalev is ridiculously complicated. Both of these guys, one's Matchroom, one's Sauerland, they're both Sky fighters. They both need a big win before they have another shot at a world title. Neither of them deserve another world title shot as it stands. Just make the fight. Simple.
Right, final Twitter question. I've got a couple of Facebook questions come in. Steve, George Reynolds, would Stevenson knock out Carol Froch at 168?
Is this question for me, sorry?
Yeah.
Who was it again, sorry?
You were too busy muting Adam there, eh? That's what you've actually... Would Stevenson have knocked out Carol Froch at 168?
Oh, why am I getting all Froch knockout questions tonight? For Stevenson against Froch? No, he wouldn't have done.
Right, Steve, what Facebook questions you got there, mate?
Right, we have a Facebook question from Richard Swig. You might like this one actually, Andy. He says, I've just been watching Calzaghe Kessler again and was wondering how you feel their resumes compare to each other, what the fights between them proved about each other, and whether Kessler and Froch deserve to be in the Hall of Fame alongside Sir Joe. So it's basically just analysing and comparing Kessler and Froch and their respective careers. I know you're a big Kessler fan.
Yeah, I know some people actually probably do down on Kessler because he's, like the day name's David Beckham, he's got this kind of like charismatic good looks about him and stuff like that, and he's this big star over there. But if you really want to kind of look at his record and that, you could probably tear it apart and say that every time he stepped up in class, he was found wanting. But at the same time, as the guy fought through chronic injuries, I know he had to have some hand surgeries. I think he's got some pins in his right hand. If you ever actually watched, especially the build up to the Froch rematch, you actually see Kessler, the pictures, like he actually wore a kind of really heavily padded glove on top of his hand wraps because his right hand was so fragile.
And the back, he always had back problems, didn't he, throughout his career?
Back problems as well, and he was injured going into that Calzaghe fight, even though he was asked about it before the fight. Actually, he denied he was injured and that sort of stuff. But obviously the eye and that. One thing I always notice about Kessler is when after Calzaghe, he never seemed to throw a right uppercut. If you look at the Calzaghe fight, he caught Calzaghe at least twice or three times with uppercuts, and he had him breathing really heavily. And I watched him after the Calzaghe fight. He had three wins before he fought Andre Ward, and it was the Perdomo fight. Actually, his timing was well off even in that fight. And just as a matter of hindsight, actually, kind of like looking back after what happened with the Froch thing with the eye and stuff, you kind of say to yourself, right, okay, you can maybe see the issue goes back further than that, eh? So, but as in terms of their careers and that, I don't think you can actually fault Kessler's resume because he has fought some good names and stuff. But I just think if you look at it, Calzaghe's got Hall of Famers on his resumes and stuff like that as well. So I think you've got to kind of give it to Calzaghe.
Okay, fair enough. Right, we've got a couple more in. We had one in from Liam Wynn. Throw this one out to everybody. It's another comparison question. This time we're comparing Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury's attributes. Can you discuss the differences in their attributes? Example: jab, defense, shot choice, footwork, power, chin, etc. What's the main difference between their various attributes? I don't know who wants to weigh in on this one.
Well, I think Fury's got the better foot movement. He's very unorthodox, especially if you look at the Klitschko fight. And that I actually can see Fury actually adopting that game plan for every top fight that he fights now. I think obviously the power in favour of Joshua and stuff. His punches are more straight shots. Fury seems to kind of like bring punches from unorthodox angles and stuff. So foot movement, I would need to give to Fury. Body movement, head movement, you need to give to Fury as well. I mean, the way he actually clowned Klitschko at some points in those fights. I mean, I remember Klitschko tried to kind of get him a jab, and his Fury just kind of slipped to the side. He then tried to kind of get a straight right hand, and he missed that. He just rolled underneath it and away out of distance and stuff. So, Fury's boxing ability does get overlooked and stuff. So, that as well. So probably better defense from Tyson Fury as well. You maybe need to say maybe AJ's maybe slightly got a better offense. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think obviously I would. I think AJ's got a much better shot selection than Fury. I just think that he mixes his shots better. I think that he has more variety to those shots. I think that the problem that when you talked about Fury's unpredictability is Joshua is almost quite predictable. There is nothing sort of unique or different about the way that Joshua fights. He fights like a very conventional stand-up heavyweight. His movement isn't the best. He hasn't really needed to be, because when you've got guys that are stood right in front of you, and I think that's why the Joshua Fury fight's so interesting, because I don't know how Joshua would go about. Well, I think I know how he would, but how he'd go about closing down that distance against what would be the bigger man, not in terms of physical mass, but in terms of size and in terms of arm length. If Fury turns southpaw, or if Fury uses his jab properly, he creates a huge amount of space in that ring, which would be a challenge for Joshua to close down. But I think that I don't know about the foot speed difference. I just think we've not seen Joshua have to fight on the back foot or have to box in that way. Until we see that, it'd be a hard comparison. But punch power definitely for Joshua. I think variety of shots for Joshua, but for unpredictability and awkwardness, and also I'm going to say the ability to take a shot, because Fury's been down and hurt, but he doesn't have a chin in the sense that you can't hurt him, but his powers of recovery are quite good. He's got good strength in his leg, which is something a lot of heavyweights. It's what will let down Deontay Wilder. It's what let down David Price. I think he has that in abundance. So, but it's like I say, it's the one fight I'm desperate to see this year. I'd love to see that.
Okay, we have another Facebook question in from Sean Glover, who asks, how does the panel think Flanagan and Selby would fare against the other major belt holders in their respective divisions? So we've got Terry Flanagan up here and his fellow belt holders, Linares, Crawler and Barthélemy, and Selby against his fellow belt holders, Lomachenko, Santa Cruz and Gary Russell Jr. Anybody want to tackle that one?
Selby sucks.
Selby's okay. He's okay. He's a good fighter.
If the Flanagan gets eaten up by Barthélemy, but you got to remember 135 is kind of a wasteland. I think the only reason he beats Linares is I just kind of feel like Jorge is so fragile, and he's got to be on the end of it. Yeah, you just got to get him cut open, man. Get a couple of good hooks around the eyes, and fucking he starts bleeding like a stuck pig.
I would think if you look at Lee Selby, I would probably favour him to beat Santa Cruz at featherweight than any of the other title holders. Saying that,
well, he's really big at the weight, and Santa Cruz is kind of small at the weight because he could really be a 122. He just moved up to 126 to fight Mares, but really, like, he had no problem making 122, and that's where I think his natural weight is.
Yeah, Leo's pretty tall, man. I think Leo's 5'7".
Right. Okay, so we've got one more. Well, just before I do that one, we have one from David Millwood, but I think we've already covered this, really. He was just saying about Kovalev. Did you notice he was inflicting just enough damage not to stop Pascal, prolong the punishment, etc.? I think we made that observation. Final question from Darren Parsons. It's quite an interesting one, actually. He says, how many flyweights do you think Kovalev could take on at once in the ring and KO?
KO. Every one of them.
Like an old Bruce Lee movie where they're all coming at him.
Okay. I've got the list up just now. Actually, I don't give any of them a prayer unless Lisa Gonzalez lands one straight in the balls.
I was thinking Room would probably focus on the testes, wouldn't you?
And then Ioka brings out his inner wrestler, jumps off a fucking top rope, smashes his head into the fucking ground while fucking Rung revisits his criminal youth and just kicks the fuck out of him while he's lying on the ground. Other than that, no chance.
That was quite a good one. That's all the Facebook questions, Andy. Don't forget to go and like the Facebook page if you haven't already. Thank you.
Cheers for that, guys. Bellew of the week. Now, I've been trying to kind of keep up with some stuff and that, so some of them have slipped through. But the first one I've got this week goes to Freddie Roach. You just know what I'm going to mention here. But according to Freddie Roach, to Jean Pascal in the build-up to the Kovalev fight last night, he says that you are better than Roy Jones Jr. Someone sent me this screenshot. It looks like it's from Sky Sports News website, and yeah, I think it's for Sky Sports News, and it says O'Hara, right? Okay, now O'Hara Davis was actually on this undercard last night on Sky Sports, and he beat a guy called Prince of, was it Ofos?
I thought so.
Ofotso, sorry. They beat him in 3 rounds now. Ofotso's been beat off Ricky Burns and Richard Comey, the guys of that kind of caliber. So, this article on the Sky Sports website says former world champion Ricky Burns took 5 rounds to stop Prince Ofotso, but local Hackney lightweight needed less than 3, scoring 3 knockdowns in the opening 2 rounds. He's certainly one to look out for, and we may have just witnessed England's answer to Floyd Mayweather Justin Bieber access as Joey Essex entered the ring afterwards to pose with his mate.
Was Prince Ofotso the guy who the corner man threw the towel in?
Yeah, he caught it in the middle of the fucking ring.
Ricky Burns looked at his corner man and was like, "What are you doing?"
Aye. So that's that one. Roy Jones last night. This guy has, he must have had the biggest demotion in history because he went from lead trainer to fucking lead rapper last night. Jesus Christ. I didn't even know it was Roy until someone was mentioning it to me on Twitter. That's fucking Roy Jones. I mean, was it? I had the Box Nation feed last night, so I'm like, sad man.
What, he was rapping?
He posted it. He rapped Pascal to the ring last night.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I must have forgot.
Yeah, right.
If he gets knocked out again, he's going to be forgetting a lot.
Matty says, remember, someone sent to me, Matty continues to say that Floyd Mayweather is scared of him. Even after last week's fucking, I was actually sickening watching Amir Khan drool over Floyd Mayweather sitting like 10 feet from him, like some sort of jilted lover, Give me that.
Yeah, just suck his dick already. It's clear he wants his life force somehow, so just fucking swallow his cum and get it over with.
And finally, Leo, for me, Leo Santa Cruz stated this week that you can see his career petering out at 147. Can you imagine the quality of fucking opposition he's going to face on the fucking way up to 147?
Well, Robert Guerrero will still fight him.
When Robert, he's probably 86 at the time or something.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got this week. So, wait, Adam, what you got?
I've got, I think it was the Daily Mail that said Keith Thurman beat Kenny Bayless.
That was last week, mate.
Oh, was it? Sorry.
That was last week.
Sorry. Well, it's good enough to mention again. My main one from this week is friend of the show, Christine, also known as Lady OX, tweeted a picture of her and Spencer Oliver and did the typical thanks for the pick chant, but uttered Spencer Fearon. So,
leave the Ox.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Anything else, Adam?
He actually fell off the call.
All right, Donnie, you anything?
I want to give a nomination. I mean, it's just pretty funny. I mean, so Sergey Kovalev called Adonis Stevenson Adonis Chickenson, and then he's like, Max Kellerman goes, he's like, so you want Adonis Chickenson? He's seated at ringside, and then Kovalev proceeds to make a quacking sound.
Duck, chicken.
So earlier today, I sent out I retweeted a tweet from somebody else who posted a picture of that Fisher Price toy that was released about 1989 or 1990, where it's like if you put it on the chicken, and you pull it, it'll make the sound the chicken makes. If you put it on the sheep,
yeah,
so
the science thing.
So the guy said, he goes, maybe Sergey Kovalev needs one of these. So anyways, I just thought it was pretty funny. I guess maybe in Russia chickens quack. I don't know.
So you get Sergey Kovalev, right? Okay, right.
But, in communist Russian, chickens eat you.
Matty, what you got?
I'm with you on the Amir Khan thing. Anything where he looks like a douche gets my vote.
Paul.
Right, there's a few. So first one, Sky Sports interviewing Carl Frampton ringside, and then when they cut away, they didn't turn their mics off, or there was something that didn't happen. So you heard Carl Frampton go, "How was that? Was that okay? Was that all right?" And Glenn McCrory saying, "Yeah, that was brilliant, mate." Just while we're waiting for the commentator to start talking again, thought that was quite good. Kugan Cassius, in an interview with Carl Frampton, asked him genuinely if he'd sparred David Hay, to which Frampton turned around and said, "Well, no, because, well, no, obviously, why would you?" Tommy Martin blowing his nose at the end of his fight with John Wayne Hibbert, and then putting his arm around Hibbert with the same snotty hand that he blew his nose in.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good image. That made me smile. I'm trying to think of was there anything else?
Wait, what about this week? Didn't Eddie Hearn and Kugan Cassius have a back and forth about? I don't know if it was fake or not.
Oh, that was fake. That was fake.
Of course
The
it
other one was Nick Hawlin saying, "I didn't know Barry McGuigan was working with George Groves, despite the fact that Shane McGuigan is working with George, and Shane and Barry are absolutely inseparable." The other one, again, there's just something for Nick Hawlin. Like I said, the one about him, what was it? John Ryder was playing up to the crowd, despite the fact it was one of the most boring fights ever. And also, it's not really Better Week nomination, but more an annoyance, right? Tommy Martin's 21. The reason I will never ever forget that was because Jim Watt must have mentioned it 22 times in 12 rounds and kept saying he's only 21, he's only 21. I mean, Canelo fought Mosley when he was 22. The fact that he's 21 he didn't lose because he was 21. He lost because he lost. But yeah, that's my list.
Steve.
Yeah, we've had a couple in from friend of the show, Liam Wynn. Number one is the bell ringer in the 9th round of the John Ryder fight for ringing the bell a minute early. I was actually thinking of some other instances when this has happened. I remember Enzo Macronelli over Mackenzie happened, didn't it, to try and save Enzo from getting a beating. I think it actually might have worked as well. And didn't one of the Josh Warrington fights, was it maybe Tubia on? I think they rang the bell early in that one as well.
Yeah.
Golovkin and Daniel Gill fucking fought for 4 minutes.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I knew there was a more high profile one.
Poor Gill.
Yeah, I know. That's the last thing you needed that night, wasn't it?
Jesus fuck.
And the second one is the second one's one Paul's already mentioned about Sky keeping the mics on. So just the bell ringer.
Right. So the nominations are as follows. We've got Freddie Roach, we've got Sky Sports News website for the O'Hara Davis comments, Roy Jones rapping, Amir Khan continue to make a cunt of himself, Sky Sports broadcast, Sergey Kovalev, Lady Ox for our tweet last night, Kugan Cassius, Tommy Martin, Nick Holland, and the bell ringer. So Adam, who gets your vote?
Christine.
I'm definitely voting for Christine. I enjoyed that. What was worse about it? It's not only. People make mistakes, and she's using the copper box Wi-Fi. She's on a big night out, VIP ticket, giving it the big one. People were taking the mickey out of her for at least an hour, and she didn't realise what she'd done. So, Christine, have my vote.
Okay, Donnie.
She gets my vote too.
Yeah.
And then the funniest part was that I came on Twitter after not being on for probably about all day. So
Yeah.
Adam Smith posted a picture of himself and Luis Ortiz in Canada or I don't know where the hell it was. But and he goes, he's like, "Hey, me and John Pascal."
King Kong.
And
then you believe me.
And so I'm like, Adam, I don't think that's John Pascal. And then he goes, "You arrived a little bit late at this party, Donnie." He goes, "How did you pass the bar?" I was totally clueless until I did a little research and realized that it was basically a joke response to Christine's original tweet where she made that mistake, but it was pretty funny.
Matty, who gets your vote, mate?
Can the cunt.
Can the cunt. So it's 2-1. Paul.
Oh, I did forget the one. The Chase, the British TV quiz show, had a question in 2014: which world champion boxer defeated George Groves in front of a record crowd of 80,000 at Wembley? Just mention that as a question when there wasn't actually 80,000 there, so it's factually wrong. But Lady O, just because, like I say, it wasn't the fact that she did it. We've all made errors. I remember tagging what did I say? I said the Klitschko's were twins. You know, we all make mistakes, but to
That's
not
a fucking
acknowledge.
big one.
But to not acknowledge your error and then to be continually confused, and also she looked lovely, but wearing a prom dress to a boxing fight was just Lady O double header this week.
Steve.
Yeah. I'm not going to vote for Paul Christine. Just a quick mention, one I actually forgot, Andy, just to throw in the mix. Adonis Stevenson had one. He was interviewed this week with his name spelt wrong on his
I've seen that.
training jersey. It was Adonis
Adonis.
on the front.
Do you know what we've missed? Do you know what we have missed? Steve Wellings. How have we missed Steve Wellings?
Yes.
This was my nailed on. Steve Wellings. Tell everyone about the article that you wrote, Steve.
Sorry. Yes, I forgot all about this.
Conveniently.
No, I'm more than happy to nominate myself. Monocle 80-something, aka Leon from the Coalition, nominated me for writing an article about Brian King. So, I said
wait. Was it an obituary?
Yeah, me. I have to nominate myself. Sorry.
Well, so anyways, but it's undisputable actually that Lady O will be this week's winner of the Billy Week Award, so hit her up, know what to do, let her know.
I'm so proud.
Right, now, you know we're in the deep poo next week because we have 0 fights to discuss, so we will endeavour to bring a few interviews your way, hope to get a couple of boxers on, one promoter and one manager hopefully, or maybe even a matchmaker, we'll wait and see, but we're hoping to get something arranged for later on next week. So we'll do pre-records and they'll be issued as part of the normal podcast. But just a bit of news kicking around now. I was actually listening to last week's show this morning. I was driving away to Perth for a meeting, and I heard myself mention last week that the cruiserweight division, hope that some unification fights happen sometime soon. And lo and behold, this week, Tony Bellew is shit out of luck because it seems that Denis Lebedev will unify his titles against Ramirez in Russia, and it's expected to take place. Is it April? I think. Yep, April. So don't know what's going to happen with Tony because he just gave up his European title there. So,
yeah, I got Lebedev by decapitation. What the fuck is that?
Donnie having a fucking wank, I think.
Something like that.
So, anybody want to weigh in with this? But the other news is Luis Ortiz against Alexander Ustinov. It seems to be getting the HBO headliner for March 5th.
I thought it was Dimitrenko.
What did I say? Ustinov.
Dimitrenko still fighting.
Dimitrenko, sorry. March 5th.
Is Alexander Dimitrenko?
Yeah.
He's still fighting, bloody hell.
I thought it was Ustinov he was meant to be fighting.
Must be Ustinov. Dimitrenko's jacked it, hasn't he?
No, Dimitrenko's still fine. Dimitrenko just lost to fucking who's that goddamn Samoan that sucked balls that Klitschko knocked out?
Leapai.
He fought Leapai. Like that's how Leapai got the shot, was beating Dimitrenko.
So there's nothing really else kicking around this week, guys. There's nothing to
Brook Khan, anyone? Brook Khan?
I discussed that last week, mate. I can't fucking do it 2 weeks in a row. I mean, the bullshit is just. I mean, fun enough, Eddie Hearns came out this week and says that there's been some good progress. Then everything's went quiet again. It's not like Amir Khan to keep quiet about this sort of shit, So you just wonder. So is there anything you want to weigh in on? No.
Just how crap the start of the year's been. It's really is poor. I should have hardly come on tonight, to be honest. I've added nothing tonight. I'm disappointed.
Well, I see a lot of your fans are wavering just now and stuff like that. I see the usual detractors or haters or people who just try to kind of like shit on what we do and stuff like that. Now starting to turn as well. They're saying that the boxing last year was pretty poor. It's been pretty shite and stuff like that. And I says, well, we've been trying to explain this to you for the last 18 months to 2 years.
We need a real. I mean, I was thinking, it's something I thought the other day. When you go and watch like a modern brilliant fight, you go back to Gatti Ward, and then something a bit more technical, you go Corrales Castillo, yeah? We're talking what, mid-2000s? There hasn't been, in the last 3 or 4 years, any fight that I think, if I could pick a top 5 fight I want to watch, there's been nothing in the sort of very recent era. We need that level of fight to really spark everyone and get everyone back really positive, and just sort of, when I've always said this, and this isn't a rant, but we watch boxing for good fights. We talk about the politics and the money and all the bullshit, but at the end of the day, we're all boxing fans because of the fight itself, not the hoopla that goes on around outside the ring. We just need someone, 2 fighters, a promoter, a network, to serve us up a really brilliant fight. And hopefully Frampton Quigg may deliver it for us over here, but worldwide we just need more really good quality matchup for the 2 guys. Leave it all on the line. Fight of the year last year, the nominations were shit. We should be tripping over nominations, and we struggled to get 5. You know, we need much better, much more exciting fights this year, and you know that's all we need. If we get that, well, we're happy. We'll stop moaning. We can handle the fact that the WBA have got 85 champions, Panamanians. we can handle the fact that, you know, that networks won't cross promote. We can handle the fact that all fighters and promoters talk about is money. Like it's just some horrible, boring obsession. Just give us some good fights and we'll shut up.
So I want some good fights for us to talk about the politics and who's ducking who because of what, why, the next thing. So anything else? Yet?
Who's Golovkin going to fight next? I was wondering if you had an answer for that, because I'm hearing
Charles. No. Charles Wade.
Dominic Wade.
Or, I'm sorry,
Yeah, he's fighting Wade. Yeah, Dominic Wade.
Is that going to happen though? Is Wade not a PBC dude?
Yeah,
or?
but they're probably either gonna purse bid it or figure it out, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, Wade is nobody. I mean, nobody even knows who he is. I mean, even Heyman is not gonna overbid, you know, HBO for a Golovkin fight. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. So I think they're just gonna do it on HBO, and because I mean, the thing is that they want that fight with Canelo to be for, well, almost all the belts except for Saunders and for the lineal. I mean, they're not gonna have Golovkin drop a belt, so they're gonna make that fight. It's gonna happen. I mean, Loeffler's already said it's going to happen. I mean, he could be full of shit, but I don't think he'd come out and say, "Yeah, we're in talks and it's going to happen," if it wasn't going to happen.
No promoters ever lied to us before.
No. Bob Arum, I was telling the truth yesterday, I was lying today. Or something along those lines anyway. But guys, if you've nothing else you're going to add, I think this might be the prudent time to close off the show. Nothing else.
That works for me.
Right, thank you. Briefly, David Hayter for coming on, Adam Smith, Matty D, Donny Baseball, Paul Webb, and Steve Wellens. Thanks for doing the record, mate. Thanks to all the listeners and guys that send in the Twitter questions, Facebook questions, and stuff. It says we're going to be very, very struggling for next week, so it says we're going to get some interviews. We'll do them as pre-record, so it might be a shorter live show than normal next week. So get us in some questions, some topics, and I'll have a look at the historical side, see if we can get something else grafted up. If not, have a good week. We'll see you next week, and all the best. Cheers.
Amir Khan taking out Brooke, #1 pound for pound.
Yeah, you know, you're fucking bullshit.
alive.
Guys.